Assalamu alaikum YouTube, this is Said Mirza. This video is based on key ideas from the excellent work by Sam Gerrans titled The Qur'an, A Complete Revelation, and from my book, Will You Not Reason, A Concordance of God's Arguments in the Qur'an. Both of these books can be downloaded for free using the link below. All translations are from the Qur'an, A Complete Revelation. Today's video is about the Hajj ritual performed by millions of Muslims in Makkah today. I will be going over this ritual to show you how the religion of Islam has created an entirely idolatrous ritual and attached it with the concept of Hajj in the Quran. The Hajj in the Quran has nothing to do with visiting a stone idol in Mecca. The core meaning of Hajj is to dispute, debate, and is used consistently in the Quran to mean that. Hence, the call to Hajj was instituted by Prophet Ibrahim to call people towards God to debate with them, and this was what Prophet Muhammad was to do in his mission. To call men towards monotheism at the Masjid al-Haram, the inviolable place of worship. Note that this Masjid al-Haram is not the one in Mecca. There is strong evidence to suggest that it was in Petra, and further archaeology is needed to identify this site. What is important is to realize that what is going on in Mecca is pure idol worship, when the Quran specifically warns us to not worship idols. What I am presenting may be shocking to those with a Muslim background. I have provided links for the material I have used in this video for you to research this matter thoroughly. Do not dismiss out of hand. We are told to not follow that which we have no knowledge of. The Quran also specifically states that we are not to follow our ancestors blindly. Let's begin. And when we settled for Ibrahim the position of the house, ascribe thou not a partnership with me to anything, and purify thou my house for those who move about, and those who stand, and the lowly, the submitting. And proclaim thou among mankind the pilgrimage. They will come to thee on foot, and on every lean camel, coming from every deep mountain pass, that they might witness things that benefit them, and remember the name of God on days appointed over the provision of livestock cattle. So eat thereof, and feed therewith the unfortunate poor. Then let them make an end of their unkemptness, and pay their vows, and move about the ancient house. Chapter 22, verses 26 to 29. The root of Hajj is Ha, Jim, Jim. Let us look elsewhere in the Quran where this root is used. And when they will dispute, yatahajjuna, together in the fire, then those who were despised will say to those who were proud, we were your followers. Can you avail us something against a portion of the fire? Chapter 40, verse 47. And those who dispute, yuhajjuna, concerning God after that answer has been made to him, their argument has no weight with their Lord, and wrath is upon them, and they have a severe punishment. Chapter 42, verse 16. So the Hajj in the Quran was a call to people to come and debate, and not a ritual focused on prostrating and kissing a stone idol. The Kaaba is an idol which was worshipped by the Nabataeans of old, and has now become a focus of worship in the religion of Islam. Before we proceed, let us see what the Quran has to say about idols. The Quran uses the root Nun Swad Ba to refer to any erected structure. This is usually translated as altar, but can mean any raised structure or monument. The Kaaba is a raised structure towards which the pilgrims prostrate during their prayer. O you who heed warning, the intoxicant, and games of chance, and altars, wal ansabbu, and divining arrows, are but abomination among the work of the shaitan, so avoid it, that you might be successful. Chapter 5, verse 90. The day they will come forth from the graves in haste as though pushing towards an idol. Nusabbin. Chapter 70, verse 43. And at the mountains how they are erected. Nusabat. Chapter 88, verse 19. The following is an excerpt from the articles Betyls of Petra by Robert Wenning. Worship of standing stones by the Nabataeans. The Nabataeans were an Arab people who inhabited northern Arabia and the southern Levant in antiquity. They observed what is called aniconism in the veneration and representation of their deities. Aniconism means that rather than using figural images as objects of worship, symbolic forms such as standing stones are taken as the representation of the deity. End quote. The defining feature of Hajj is the circling of the Kaaba counterclockwise 7 times. We will be seeing this number 7 pop up in many of the rituals performed during the Hajj ritual. There is no mention of doing any ritual 7 times in the Quran. We do, however, see this specific ritual of circling something 7 times in Hinduism. The following is from an article on Satphere on Wikipedia. Quote, in Hinduism, the Satphere is one of the most important features of the Hindu wedding, involving 7 rounds around a sacred fire lit for the purpose amidst the Vedic mantras. The bride and groom circumambulate a consecrated fire 7 times, reciting specific vows with each circuit. Vows made in the presence of the sacred fire are considered unbreakable. End quote. The following is from an article from Wikipedia on Parikrama. Quote, Parikrama or Pradakshina refers to circumambulation of sacred places to imbibe their energy in Sikh, Hindu, Jain, or Buddhist contexts, and the path along which this is performed. Parikrama means the path surrounding something in Sanskrit and is also known as Pradakshina to the right, representing circumambulation. Both words are mostly used in the context of religious deities in a temple, sacred rivers, sacred hills, and a close cluster of temples, and doing a parikrama as a symbol of prayer is an integral part of Hindu worship. In Hinduism and other Indian religions, the parikrama inside temples or sacred sites is traditionally clockwise. Similarity and difference with Islam. Like parikrama in Hinduism, Muslims perform circumambulation around Kaaba during their Hajj, which they call Tawaf. The circumambulation during Hajj is done in a counterclockwise manner. Hindu and Buddhist traditions, in contrast, circumambulate a shrine or sacred site clockwise. The only exception is during praying last respects to a dead body during a cremation or event marking a funeral, where the traditional circumambulation in Indian religions is counterclockwise. End quote. The first problem encountered when we look into the Quran for guidance on the Hajj is that the place where this event is to take place was located in Makkah and not Makkah. The religion of Islam claims that Makkah was the old name of Makkah, but does not bring any proof for this assertion. All they have are stories from Hadith literature, which I reject, being Quran alone follower. The first house set up for mankind was that of Makkah, blessed, and a guidance for all mankind. Chapter 3, verse 96. The second issue is that the Quran does not contain an Islamic calendar, or any calendar for that matter, from which we can work out the months in which this Hajj is to be performed. The religion of Islam states that the month of Dhul Hijjah is the month in which Hajj is to take place. The Quran simply states that the Hajj is on moons appointed. We are supposed to take the religion of Islam on its word that these moons appointed, that is months, in which the Hajj is to take place, somehow became one month called Dhul Hijjah. The pilgrimage is on moons appointed, and whoso undertakes the pilgrimage therein, let there be no sexual approach and no wanton perfidy or quarreling during the pilgrimage. And whatever good you do, God knows it. And take provision, and the best provision is prudent fear. And be in prudent fear of me, O you possessed of insight. Chapter 2, verse 197. The following is taken from Wikipedia article on Hajj and details the steps of this cultic ritual. I will be pointing out the twisting of Quranic general words by the religion of Islam in the performance of their rituals, and will show how these words are actually used in the Quran. You will see the incredible twisting of the clear and simple words in the Quran to lend support to this idolatrous agenda. This exercise will help you in seeing how the religion of Islam twists the words of the Quran to further its own narrative. This is something which was done by the Jews, and the Quran has already warned us about these deceivers who corrupt God's words. Do you hope that they should believe you when some of them listened to the word of God, then twisted it after understanding it? And they know. Chapter 2, verse 75. Quote, Fiqh literature describes in detail the manners of carrying out the rites of Hajj, and pilgrims generally follow handbooks and expert guides to successfully fulfill the requirements of Hajj. In performing the rites of Hajj, the pilgrims not only follow the model of Muhammad, but also commemorate the events associated with Ibrahim. Donning of Ihram. When the pilgrims reach the appropriate miqat, depending on where they have come from. They are believed to enter into a state of holiness known as ihram, that consists of wearing two white seamless clothes for the male, with the one wrapped around the waist reaching below the knee, and the other draped over the left shoulder and tied to the right side. End quote. Let us look in the Quran to see how the word miqat is used. And we appointed for Musa 30 nights and completed them with 10. And he completed the appointed time, miqatu, of his Lord of 40 nights. And Musa said to his brother Harun, be thou my successor among the people, and do thou right, and follow thou not the way of the workers of corruption. Chapter 7, verse 142. Say thou, the former peoples and the latter will be gathered together at the appointed time, miqati, on the day appointed. Chapter 56, verses 49 and 50. So the word miqat simply means time appointed, which has been twisted to mean a place where the pilgrim is to put on special clothing. This special clothing called the ihram is not mentioned in the Quran. Hindus and Buddhists wear such special clothes. Continuing on with the article of Hajj, quote, first day of Hajj, 8th Dhul Hijjah. On the 8th Dhul Hijjah, the pilgrims are reminded of their duties. They again don the ihram garments and confirm their intention to make the pilgrimage. The prohibitions of ihram start now. The ritual of Tawaf involves walking 7 times counterclockwise around the Kaaba. Upon arriving at Masjid al-Haram, pilgrims perform an arrival Tawaf either as part of Umrah or as a welcome Tawaf. During Tawaf, pilgrims also include Hatim, an area at the north side of the Kaaba inside their path. Each circuit starts with the kissing or touching of the black stone, Hajar al-Aswad. If kissing the stone is not possible because of the crowds, they may simply point towards the stone with their hand on each circuit. Eating is not permitted, but the drinking of water is allowed because of the risk of dehydration. End quote. The word tawaf does not mean circling anything 7 times. It is based on the root toy, waw, fa, which means to walk around, mingle. Here is the word being used in the Quran in the context of heaven. And there move about, wayatafu, among them youths of their own, as it were pearls closely guarded. Chapter 52, verse 24. Youths made eternal move about, yatufu, among them. Chapter 56, verse 17. The last verse is in the context of 3 times of privacy for the believers. O you who heed warning, let ask leave of you those whom your right hands possessed, and those who have not reached puberty among you, at 3 times, before the duty of the dawn, and when you lay aside your garments in the midday heat, and after the duty of the night, 3 times of privacy for you. You and they do no wrong outside of them. Some of you move about, tawafuna, among others of you. Thus God makes plain to you the proofs, and God is knowing, wise. Chapter 24, verse 58. We can see clearly that tawaf means to mingle unless you are ready to believe that the verse above means that some of you can circle around 7 times among others. So now we come to the verse that is used to support this cultic circling of a stone idol called the Kaaba 7 times. Then let them make an end of their unkemptness and pay their vows and move about. وَلْيَتَوَفُّوا the ancient house, chapter 22, verse 29. It is plain that it means that once the pilgrimage is over, people can move around and sightsee about the ancient house. Quoting again from the article on Hajj. The completion of Tawaf is followed by 2 rakat prayers at the place of Ibrahim, Muqam Ibrahim, a site near the Kaaba inside the mosque. End quote. Let us look at the article on Maqam Ibrahim on Wikipedia. Quote, the Maqam Ibrahim is a stone associated with Abraham, Ismail, and the rebuilding of the Kaaba in what is now the Great Mosque of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. According to Islamic tradition, the imprint on the stone came from Abraham's feet. According to one tradition, it appeared when Abraham stood on the stone while building the Kaaba. When the walls became too high, Abraham stood on the maqam, which miraculously rose up to let him continue building, and also miraculously went down in order to allow Ismail to hand him stones. Other traditions held that the footprint appeared when the wife of Ismail washed Abraham's head, or alternatively when Abraham stood atop it in order to summon the people to perform the pilgrimage to Makkah. End quote. This Maqam Ibrahim, which we are to believe is a set of footprints left by Abraham, is mentioned in the Quran. Again, we see the twisting of a general term to mean a specific cultic significance. The Maqam Ibrahim in the Quran is not a set of footprints, but the strict monotheism which he practiced and which he lived by. That is his monotheistic stand. We are to take him as a model for our mission, which is to live by the commandments of God and to warn others and call them towards God. And when we made the house a meeting place for mankind and a place of security, and make from the station of Ibrahim, Maqam Ibrahima, a place of duty, and we commissioned Ibrahim and Ismail, purify my house for those who move about, the tafina, and those who remain, and the lowly, the submitting. The first house set up for mankind was that at Bakka, blessed, and a guidance for all mankind. Chapter 3, verse 96. In it were clear proofs of the station of Ibrahim, Maqam Ibrahima, and whoso entered it was safe. And God's claim upon mankind was the pilgrimage to the house, whoso could find a way to it, and whoso denied, God was free from need of all mankind. Chapter 3, verse 97. Now, if we are to believe that these claimed footprints of Ibrahim are the Maqam Ibrahim, and we are to perform a ritual prayer near them, then these footprints need to be inside the stone structure, that is, inside the Kaaba, and not outside of it, as it says in the Quran. In it, that is the house, which is claimed to be the Kaaba, were clear proofs of the station of Ibrahim, which the religion of Islam claims to be Ibrahim's footprints. Yet, we find the Maqam Ibrahim to be outside the Kaaba. Hence, logically, this claim of footprints being the Maqam Ibrahim mentioned in the Quran, even if we were to assume that these were footprints and not a philosophical idea of strict monotheism, does not stand up to reason and contradicts the Quran's claim. The presence of footprints near a pagan shrine or site is not unique to the Kaaba. Similar footprints are found near Buddhist shrines. The following is an excerpt from the Wikipedia article on Buddha footprint. Quote, the footprint of the Buddha is an imprint of Gautama Buddha's foot or both feet. They are two forms, natural as found in stone or rock and those made artificially. Many of the natural ones are acknowledged not to be genuine footprints of the Buddha, but rather replicas or representations of them, which can be considered Sitya, and also an early aniconic and symbolic representation of the Buddha. Symbolism. The footprints of Buddha are on the path from aniconic to iconic, which starts at symbols like the wheel and moves to statues of Buddha. His footprints are meant to remind us that Buddha was present on earth and left a spiritual path to be followed. They are special as they are the only artifacts that give Buddha a physical presence on earth, as they are actual depressions in the earth. A depression atop Sri Padaya in Sri Lanka is among the largest and most famous footprints. End quote. Continuing on with the article of Hajj on Wikipedia, quote, Tawaf is followed by Sa'i, running or walking 7 times between the hills of Safa and Marwa, located near the Kaaba. End quote. Again, we see the twisting of a general word Sa'i, giving it a special meaning of running and walking between 2 hills, when the root Sin Ain Ya means effort or endeavor. Here it is how it is used in the Quran. And when he turns away, he hastens, Sa'a, through the land to create corruption therein and destroys tilth and progeny. And God loves not corruption. Chapter 2, verse 205. And those who strive, Sa'u, to undermine our proofs, they have the punishment of a painful scourge. Chapter 34, verse 5. And that man has not saved for that which he strives. Sa'a, chapter 53, verse 39. Al-Safa and Al-Marwa are supposedly the names of 2 hills where this running takes place. It is true that Safa and Marwa are mentioned as 2 tokens or signs of God in the Quran. Al-Safa and Al-Marwa are among the tokens of God. So whoso made pilgrimage to the house or visited, he did no wrong to move about, yatawaffa between them. And whoso does good voluntarily, God is grateful, knowing. Chapter 2, verse 158. I do not know what Al-Safa and Al-Marwa are, but since we have already established that the site for Hajj is in Bakka and not Makkah, we can be sure that Al-Safa and Al-Marwa are not these 2 hills to which the Quran is referring. We cannot even be sure that it is referring to 2 hills. There may be some other markers. God only knows. Continuing on with the article of Hajj on Wikipedia. Quote, Mina. After the morning prayer on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, the pilgrims proceed to Mina, where they spend the whole day and offer noon, afternoon, evening, and night prayers. The next morning after morning prayer, they leave Mina to go to Arafat, second day, 9th of Dhul Hijjah. The 9th Dhul Hijjah is known as Day of Arafah, and this day is called the Day of Hajj, Arafah. On 9th Dhul Hijjah before noon, pilgrims arrive at Arafah, a barren and plain land some 20 kilometers east of Mecca, where they stand in contemplative vigil. They offer supplications, repent on and atone for their past sins, and seek mercy of God, and listen to sermon from the Islamic scholars who deliver it from near Jabal al-Rahmah, from where Muhammad is said to have delivered his last sermon. Muzdafillah. Pilgrims must leave Arafah for Muzdafillah after sunset without praying sunset prayer at Arafah. Muzdafillah is an area between Arafat and Mina. Upon reaching there, pilgrims perform Maghrib and Isha prayers jointly, spend the night praying and sleeping on the ground with open sky, and gather pebbles for the next day's ritual of the stoning of the devil. Third day, 10th Dhul Hijjah. After returning from Muzdafillah, the pilgrims spend the night at Mina. Rami al-Jamara. Back at Mina, the pilgrims perform symbolic stoning of the devil, Rami al-Jamara, by throwing 7 stones from sunrise to sunset at only the largest of the 3 pillars, known as Jamrat al-Aqaba. The remaining 2 pillars are not stoned on this day. These pillars are said to represent Satan. Pilgrims climb ramps to the multi-level Jamarat bridge, from which they can throw their petals at the Jamara. Because of safety reasons, in 2004, the pillars were replaced by long walls which catch basins below to collect the pebbles. As an aside here, the safety reasons they are referring to was the incidents that used to happen before, when people used to throw stones and sometimes they would hit the person on the opposing side of the pillar. After many injuries, they replaced these pillars with long walls to make this make these accidents less prevalent. To continue, animal sacrifice. After the casting of stones, animals are slaughtered to commemorate the story of Ibrahim and Ismail. Traditionally, the pilgrims slaughtered the animals themselves or saw the slaughtering. Today, many pilgrims buy a sacrifice voucher in Makkah before the greater Hajj begins, which allows an animal to be slaughtered in the name of God on the 10th without the pilgrim being physically present. Hair removal. After sacrificing an animal, another important rite of Hajj is shaving head or trimming hair, known as halak. All male pilgrims shave their head or trim their hair on the day of Eid al-Adha, and women pilgrims cut the tips of their hair. Tawaf ziyarat. On the same or the following day, the pilgrims revisit the sacred mosque in Makkah for another tawaf, known as Tawaf al-Ifada, an essential part of Hajj. Fourth day, 11th Dhul Hijjah. Starting from noon to sunset on the 11th Dhul Hijjah, the pilgrims again throw 7 pebbles at each of the 3 pillars in Mina. This is commonly known as stoning of the devil. Fifth day, 12th Dhul Hijjah. On 12th Dhul Hijjah, the same process of stoning of the pillars as of 11th Dhul Hijjah takes place. Pilgrims may leave Mina for Makkah before sunset on the 12th. Last day at Mina, 13th Dhul Hijjah. If unable to leave on the 12th before sunset or opt to stay at free will, they must perform the stoning ritual again on the 13th before returning to Makkah. Tawaf al-Wida. Finally, before leaving Makkah, pilgrims perform a farewell tawaf called Tawaf al-Wida. Wida means to bid farewell. The pilgrims circle the Kaaba 7 times counterclockwise and, if they can, attempt to touch or kiss the Kaaba. End quote. There is no mention of stoning a devil's representation anywhere in the Qur'an. Stoning is specifically mentioned as a threat by idolaters to their respective prophets and messengers. They said, "If thou seest not, O Nuh, thou wilt be stoned." Chapter 26, verse 116. They said, "O Shoaib, we understand not much of what thou sayest, and we see thee among us as weak. And were it not for thy family, we would have stoned thee, and thou art of no account to us." Chapter 11, verse 91. As it is clear from this video, the Hajj ritual as practiced today is straightforward idol worship. I have collected all verses from the Quran relating to Hajj and are available for you to view using the link below. As I said earlier, I ask you to do your own research on the matter. We are all responsible for what we do in this life, and on the day of judgment we will be questioned by our Creator. And follow thou not that whereof thou hast no knowledge, the hearing, and the sight, and the heart, each of these is to be accounted for. Chapter 17, verse 36. May God guide you to his straight path. Peace be upon you.